Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I had to think about that for a second. 3-day weeks always, or 4-day weeks always throw me off. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining us. If you are attending the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Field webinar, you are in the right place. My name is Bronwyn Kennedy, and I am a consultant here at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing in the Professional Services Division. And we are super excited that you're spending your Wednesday morning with us to learn all about this exciting new credential. We're going to give just a few minutes to let our folks join us that are coming in. We have over 300 folks registered for this webinar today, so we're going to give it us a little bit of time so that everybody can come in. We have a couple of things we're going to drop in the chat here in a moment, and before we start our presentation. All righty, and then with that, I'm going to put up our presentation right now so we can get started without further ado. Give me 1 second. All right,
Bronwyn, I
as
am
I,
putting
yes,
our, I'm sorry to
go
interrupt
ahead.
there. I am putting the new
No,
policy in the chat right now. So if you
okay.
wouldn't mind sharing that with
Yep,
everybody, that would
I'm
be
going to go right
awesome.
there right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a new policy here at the Commission. If you are an individual who plans to record this via video or audio or using another transcription device or note-taking bot such as an AI, you must notify our CTC staff prior to launching this device. So just go ahead and put in the chat, I'm going to use an AI bot today, an Otter bot, any of those fun new technology things. Or if you plan on recording this with a third-party device, either audio or video, we need to know that as well. And please know that this now serves as your notification that any way that you transcribe this outside of how we're recording it should not be relied on as a source of information from the Commission. No transcription should be reproduced or disseminated as a source of official Commission information. So if you are planning on using one of those recording devices, just let us know in the chat, and then we'll go ahead and let that little bot in to the wait room from the wait room. But if you don't let us know, we will not be able to let it in for you. And with that, we're going to go ahead with some introductions. So I'm going to pass it over to Renee Marshall, and she'll go start us off with our introductions.
Thank you so much, Bronwyn. Welcome, everybody. It is wonderful to be together today to learn about the PK-3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. My name is Renee Marshall, and I'm an administrator here at the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. I have the honor of working with everything related to early childhood education teacher preparation. We are so excited to be here today. I also want to give a shout out to everybody who submitted questions prior to this webinar through the survey that we had. We've done our best to try to embed as many of those questions and answers within the presentation today. So, but I do want to note, if you have more of like a personal question, we'll put our contact in the chat. So that way, we're going to cover like general questions today. But if you have anything that's like your specific situation, we are happy to meet with you, either the ECE team or our colleagues from the certification team, or a combination of us. And so we'll make sure we put our ECE email in the chat. And we are just so happy for you to be here today. So welcome, and thank you for spending some of your day with us today. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Debbie Keeler.
Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to be with you this morning, and we're looking forward to a very informative webinar about the PK-3 credential. Just saying that for short, it's a mouthful. So I've been with the Commission for almost 4 years and been a part of this work since its inception. It's very exciting to see where we are at this point, and we hope that today is very informative. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rosemary.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosemary Wren, and I'm a consultant in the Professional Services Division. And my main focus here is on the initial program review team. So when when an institution wants to add a new program like the PK-3 program, it goes through my team. So I'm here because I can help answer questions about program requirements and elements that that might matter to you, and that it'll help you understand better what the various programs have to offer. And I'm going to hand it over to Nick, who is one of our career counselors in the certification division.
Morning, everyone. My name is Nick Newman. I'm one of the career counselors in the certification division and the PK-3 subject matter expert in the certification division. So I'd be the person to contact when we'll get into that if you're applying directly because you have a multiple subject recommendation for a PK-3 comes through, or you're just wanting kind of more general information on programs. Renee kind of talked about specific situations that you run into. I kind of be that person of contact, and I will put my email in the chat as well, how to get a hold of me, as well as there'll be something at the end where you can contact not just me, but other career counselors.
Thank you so much. And again, my name is Bronwyn Kennedy. I'm also a consultant here in the Professional Services Division at the Commission. I've been with the Commission just under 2 years. I work with the PK-3 credential as well as the Child Development Permit and anything ECE related here in the state of California. I also want to make sure that Julie Holmes in our Performance Assessment Division gets a chance to introduce herself. So Julie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's great to see so many people here today. My name is Julie Holmes. I am a consultant on the performance assessment team, and so I am helping to coordinate the PK-3 fall field test that is currently underway, and we will be going operational with that field with the PK-3 math cycle in July 1 of 2025. So I'm here to listen and learn, and if you have any performance assessment questions, I can assist as well. Thank you for having me, ECE team.
Thank you, Julie. All right. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Renee.
Thank you so much. I also want to let everybody know that we will get the recording of this webinar up, but we have to go through accessibility. There's a couple different channels we need to go through on our side. So it will take us about a week for us to get this recording up on the Commission YouTube channel. Please know, though, we will send an email to everybody alerting you when this is officially gone up. So just want to let you know that. If you could please take a moment now, everybody, and just introduce yourself in the chat. If you can include your name, your job title, your affiliation, that's wonderful. We know we have, looking at our registration, we have a real variety of people who are going to be joining this webinar today. So we've got people who are running PK-3 programs, people who are thinking about creating PK-3 programs. We've got county offices of ed, LEAs. We have future teachers, candidates on right now who want to learn more about this. So we just so appreciate everybody being here. We really appreciate it. Let's go ahead to our next slide, please. So some of the questions that will be answered today. We're hoping that we're going to answer most of your questions. Please know, though, if there's anything we don't answer, we are happy to meet with you. We want to just share as much information as possible about this credential. So questions that will be answered today. I've got a degree in early childhood education, 20 years of experience in the classroom. Do I still have to get a credential? We're going to get into that today. How can I find out who's offering a PK-3 credential program? Well, guess what? We can tell you hot off the presses exactly who's offering them right now. Plus, later on in this webinar, we're going to give you a link to the website where at any time you can log in and see any of the credential programs, including all the PK-3 credential programs in the state of California, one place. So we'll make sure we share that with you. Do I have to teach TK-3? I only want to teach preschool. Don't worry, we're going to get into that question as well. And also, I have a multiple subject credential and I want the PK-3 credential. What do I need to do? We're going to get into that question as well. We have more questions than that we're getting into by all means, but that's just a sampling of some of the questions that were emailed to us ahead of time. Let's go ahead to the next slide. Excellent. And now we have got a PK-3 ECE and me poll that we are going to launch. So let's go ahead and put that up. And we're trying to get an idea of how familiar or not familiar you are with the PK-3 early childhood credential. So we've got one question here. How familiar are you with the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction credential? I've never heard of it before is the first option. I have some knowledge, but I need some more information. Second option, I'm familiar, but I need some clarification. And then the last option is I'm really familiar with this credential. So if everybody could just take a moment to put their notes in, that'd be great. We have 113 of us on, And it looks like maybe a little more than half of us have answered at this point. If you're driving though, if you're listening to the webinar and you're not in a safe space to do the poll, we absolutely encourage you not to do it. If you are in a safe space where you're like at your office and you can easily engage in the poll, that would be great. And Bronwyn, I'm not sure how long we want to leave it open, but right now what I'm seeing is there's only 1% who's saying they haven't heard of it before.
Yeah.
And also just for rating everybody, we have 91 out of 113 people, colleagues that have done the poll.
85% have participated. So I think we're good. We can go ahead and end it, and I'll share the results.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I don't know if I should click it, and then if I'm gonna, I don't know if I click the stop sharing, is it gonna take it off for when you share it, Bronwyn? Or is it okay?
It's good. We're good.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So it's great to see that we have a variety of people in terms of their knowledge, in terms of what they know about the PK-3 credential. And Bronwyn, do you want to share just what people, what people rated for each one of the answers?
Yeah, it looks like we are pretty mixed. About 40% and 40% have familiarity but need some more information and also need some more clarification. So luckily you're in the right place because that's what we're going to do today. So I'm so excited that you're here. So stay tuned. All your answers will be answered, hopefully. All your questions will be answered, hopefully.
And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our colleague, Nick.
All right, everyone. So one of the big questions that we get a lot in certification and we get as a team as a whole is a teaching credential required to teach in a TK3 in a public elementary school setting? For many years, TK was kind of this weird space that you could just have a child development permit and it was okay to teach that. You may have had a credential. Well, the Department of Education has cleared that up in the recent years. And yes, a teaching credential is required. So it's no longer a case of you can just have a child development permit. You must have an actual credential. And there's I wouldn't say a plethora, but there are a few options that you can get. We're obviously here mainly to talk about the PK-3 credential. That is obviously one aspect you can go, totally fine. You can also have a multiple subject. And then there's options that you would fill in. I'm not going to get into the apportionment aspect of that, but you would fill in whether it be the 24 units, which I'm sure many of you have heard, or get a child development permit or have experience to be grandfathered in. But a multiple subject would be another aspect. There's some emergency permits that would also qualify. We see all the time, especially in certification, of people that are like, I want to teach TK, and employers want to keep that person in the classroom. The emergency TK permit is another aspect that would allow a person to have what wouldn't be an official credential, but for staffing reasons, it would be considered a credential. And anything that would have the multiple subject authorization is considered a credential. So things like a provisional internship permit, a short-term staff permit can be considered to teach TK as well. But mainly we're going to, the two main full credentials you would see is a multiple subject or PK-3 credential.
Thank you, Nick. So today we're going to go through step by step the requirements of the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. We probably will refer to it as the PK-3 credential in some spaces because the name is so long. So as a general overview, these are the overview of the requirements for this credential. A bachelor's or higher degree from a regionally accredited institution of higher education, the subject matter requirement, the completion of a preliminary PK-3 credential program, and a passage of a commission-approved teaching performance assessment. We're going to go through each one of these requirements individually to give you a little bit more in-depth knowledge of what's required for this credential. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. And if you have specific questions, as we mentioned before, please reach out to one of our email boxes so that we can reach out to you individually and help you about your specific question. First of all, the requirements for the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential. As a reminder, it's a bachelor's or higher degree. There's the subject matter requirement and the completion of the credential program for this credential and the passage of the commission-approved teaching performance assessment. As a reminder, there is no CBEST or CSET for this credential. We get asked that a lot. Do I have to take the CBUS test? Do I have to take the CSET? No, there are no testing requirements other than the RECA or later on the LPA, which we'll talk about later. But for this particular credential, there is no CBUS or CSET. For the subject matter requirements, the bachelor, you have two options. A bachelor or higher degree in one of the following 9 majors, and it must be in one of these following 9 majors if you're looking at this this option: child development, child and adolescent development, human development, early childhood education, child and family studies, early childhood studies, human development and family science, or child, adolescent, and family studies. Now, if you have a bachelor's degree in something else, you can meet the subject matter requirement by getting the bachelor's degree in another major plus 24 units in ECE or child development, but they must be completed in a regionally accredited institution of higher education. So it's one or the other. You can have a bachelor degree or higher in one of those 9 majors, or a bachelor's degree in any other major, plus the 24 units of early childhood or child development. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Debbie.
Great, thank you, Bronwyn. All right, so when we look at all of the elements for the completion of a PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential Program, there's some different components here I wanted to highlight. So first of all, individuals must take coursework. All of the programs require coursework. So if you're not familiar with a prep program, that is a part of the process. And this is where theory and pedagogy are emphasized throughout all of the coursework, all of the clinical practice, and the TPA and everything. All of these work in tandem together. The other element is, yes, individuals must complete clinical practice. And we'll get into some of the waiver options, but clinical practice is a part of this credential program. Also, a very important part is the teaching performance expectations, where these are introduced, practiced, and assessed. And these elements are embedded throughout the program. Also includes a new literacy, math, and equity, inclusion, and diversity standards and TPAs, a part of this credential, which is a little bit unique and different than other credential programs. And then also a passage of commission-approved teaching performance assessment. So these are some of the elements that are really important to remember in relationship to this particular credential. Next slide, please. All right, so the credential program is built around preparing you to be ready to teach on day 1. So this means providing a lot of opportunities to practice the skills you will need to be successful on the TPA, and providing you with mentors who will provide guidance and feedback along the way. Your program will set your clinical practice. Your program will set up your clinical practice to make sure you are in the right place to complete the TPA. It's important to recognize that your preparation program is here to help support you through the passage of a commission-approved teaching performance assessment. So if students are enrolled prior to July 1st, 2025, and there's a little star note at the bottom there, during this time prior to July 1st, has the option to take the new PK-3 TPA when available July 1st, 2025. You will need to complete the following in TK through 3 placements. Either a multiple subject Cal TPA, an Ed TPA, or a FAST, one of those 3, and also RECA. Will need to pass the RECA prior to July 1st. So any students that are enrolled after July 1st of 2025 would complete the following. First of all, the PK-3 Cal TPA Cycle 1 and a PK-3 placement, and a PK-3 Cal TPA Cycle 2 in a TK through third grade placement. So you definitely want to check with your program to see what options that you have. So we're just sharing with you ahead of time. But again, if you're looking for a program, you want to be sure that you really have an idea about what the next steps will be. I'm going to pass it over to Rosemary.
Thanks so much, Debbie, excuse me. And the TPA, there will be a lot of questions about that because we are in a time of transition with the new literacy performance assessment being incorporated into the TPA. So if you have questions about that, please send them our way via email and we'll do our best to answer them. All right. So clinical practice is a core element of any teacher preparation, educator preparation program. And it is a required developmental, sequential, and intentional set of activities that are integrated with your educator preparation program coursework. This is where you're going to practice. You'll be observed on the teaching competencies that are required of a beginning teacher in California. If you're in an intern program, your clinical practice will be built into your teaching responsibilities. And like Debbie mentioned, it is your program's responsibility to ensure that you have the opportunity to complete clinical practice in a way that helps to prepare you to be ready on day one and to be successful on your performance assessment. Candidates will have a supervisor, both from the program and from the site where you are doing your clinical practice. So these supervisors are there to guide and support you and to give you feedback on your teaching. So if you are, let's say that you are enrolled in a program at a university, the university will provide a program supervisor or a university supervisor, and the classroom where you're placed, that teacher in that classroom is considered your supervisor or your mentor teacher. And between the three of you, you will strategize ways for you to be successful in your clinical practice, your student teaching. It is an essential part of any credential program, and to ensure that candidates are ready to teach the span of ages that are authorized, which is PK, so basically 3-year-olds to 8-year-olds. So this credential requires a placement both in a PK-TK and in a K-3 space, because there is such, as you know, as early childhood educators and people who are in these learning spaces, there's such a huge difference in development between those ages. So it'll be up to you as a candidate, and we call folks who are enrolled in teacher preparation or educator preparation, we call them candidates. So if you keep hearing that term, you might think of it as a student, but students are the people that candidates are teaching. So that's why I keep calling them you all candidates. So each program will have their structure for clinical practice, and we really encourage you to ask questions to the programs that you're considering. Right now we have 7 of them. There should be more by the next semester or so, that more and more are going through this process. And so you really want to find the program that's set up in a structure that works for you. While it is possible to earn equivalency for the PK-TK placement based on your prior employment or completion of a practicum, all candidates for this credential must complete clinical practice. And there is not an equivalency option for the K-3 placement. So even those of you who have had prior work experience, you may be able to get some equivalency for the PK-TK hours, but you will still need to do the 200 hours minimum in a K-3 setting. So let's go to the next slide, because
Rosemary,
we brought up equivalency. And this is probably one of the more complicated elements of this credential. And so it's really important that you speak with your program to find out what their requirements and what the eligibility requirements are for this. So one option for getting equivalency for clinical practice is to have at least one of the following: the child development permit, teacher level or higher, lead teacher in a Head Start program, lead teacher in a child care and development center serving preschool age children, and 6 years of or more of satisfactory full-time teaching experience. And you will need to provide written verification to your program, and you will need to speak to the program to find out what that documentation needs to be. The program is required to offer you 200 hours of equivalency for the PK-TK portion of your clinical practice. You can't get partial credit. You cannot get credit for working in grades K to 6 or in a high school or something like that, or for part-time work over a course of years. It really must meet these criteria. So again, this is set into legislation, it's set into education code, so you cannot wiggle room on this one. However, there is a second option for clinical practice equivalency, which it might apply to a lot of folks in the early childhood education field, and that is completion of a practicum in early childhood education. There are some requirements for this practicum. It needs to be a practicum. It needs to be from a regionally accredited institution of higher education. It needs to be credit bearing and degree applicable. That doesn't mean you have to have a degree in that field, but it has to be a course that would count towards a degree. It needs to have been completed in a preschool or early childhood setting, serving 3 to 4-year-old children. So infants and toddlers, love infants and toddlers. But if your setting doesn't serve older children, then that time an infant toddler isn't going to be able to count towards equivalency. It must be supervised by trained faculty or instructors with expertise in early childhood or child development pedagogy, and that will include observation, feedback, and reflection. You must have earned a grade of C or better. And equivalency is granted based on how many hours your practicum was, up to 200 hours. So let's say your practicum was 60 hours that semester, and you did another practicum that was another 60 hours. You could have up to 120 hours of equivalency available to you. Caveat is programs may still want you to do some clinical practice. Let's say you met all your 200 hours of clinical practice for PK-TK. The program still wants you to be successful on your TPA and on your first day of class. So they may give you the opportunity to still do some clinical practice in a PK-TK to make sure that you're ready to work with children those ages. So super complicated. It's the only credential that has these opportunities.
Rosemary,
Can you really?
Oh, sorry, Bronwyn.
That's okay. I just wanted you to clarify just one more time for us, because I know sometimes this gets a little confusing for programs and for candidates. How can one get up to 400 hours? Because we know 600 hours is the minimum. So how does one get up to 400 hours of clinical practice equivalency? We want to make sure everybody knows that it's an equivalency. It's not a credit or a waiver. It's equivalency.
Thanks, Bronwyn. That's a great question. And there are a lot of questions surrounding this element. This is the only credential that offers this opportunity. And so the total number of hours a candidate must complete is 600, with a minimum of 200 hours in PK-TK and 200 hours in K through 3rd. A person who has a significant amount of experience in early childhood education and or in a practicum experience can earn up to 400 hours of equivalency towards their clinical practice, with either a combination of the two, and then it'll be up to programs. It's up to the program's discretion. Let's say I come in and I have taught for 20 years in an early childhood setting. I've run an early childhood education space where children ages 3 to 5 are all the time, and that's all I do. I've taught, I've run the school. My program may have the discretion, well, has the discretion to offer me more equivalency hours. I don't want to get super technical into this because that's going to be on a case-by-case situation. And quite frankly, this equivalency is going to be less the rule and more the exception. So all programs, if you're looking at a program and considering a program, you want to make sure that it has a really well-organized, very robust clinical practice opportunity set up for you. So most of you are going to fall into a category of needing to complete a significant number of hours during your program. And so you want to make sure that that is going to be really well organized and really well supported. And that's our job on the front end, to make sure that programs that get approved have those in place. But once they start running, you want to ask those kinds of questions of them to make sure you have that. So I hope that answered the question, and I'm happy to take individual ones by email. Don't know if Renee still had a question.
Bronwyn touched upon it perfectly.
Okay, great. So one of the questions that we got a lot of was, what kind of financial support is there for this credential? And the answer is, ask your institution, because in most cases, that's where you're going to find some financial support. So there are grants that districts and county offices can get to support you. Like, let's say you are a paraeducator in a classroom at a school and you're like, gosh, I would really like to become a credential teacher. I want to work full time. I'm really excited about working in this school. There are grants that are available to districts and county offices that can supplement your tuition or even cover it, okay? There are also teacher residency grants, which are offered to local education agencies, LEAs, that offer residency as an option for educator preparation. And those are programs where you are in a traditional preparation program where you're learning all your coursework, and then you are in one classroom for most of the year with the opportunity to go into the other grade levels that you'll need for this credential. So ask as you apply and as you're thinking about programs to apply to. Now, the Golden State Teacher Grant, and the link is in the PowerPoint that you'll get later on. The Golden State Teacher Grants are grants that you can apply to directly. So I encourage you to check that out, and also to check out with any local organizations that might be offering them. So those are the commission does not offer direct financial assistance, but there are available opportunities out there. So, and I'll pass it.
Rosemary, I will share also that a couple of our colleagues that are at institutions or county offices that are offering PK-3 programs that have already been approved have put some notes in the chat too.
Right.
Hey, contact me, I can give you more information, or here's what we've got available. So I encourage those who are on the webinar right now live to check out the chat. And those of you who watch this after, you are welcome to email us at ece@ctc.ca.gov, and we're happy to help you connect. Thanks, Rosemary.
All right. And I see in the chat a note about the Golden State grants sunsetting. That's, like I said, definitely check things out, look into these. If one is sunsetting, oftentimes there will be other resources out there. Although right now, I know the state is pretty tight on resources. So there are other ways that you can earn while you learn, and Renee's going to talk about those later. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick.
Thank you, Rosemary. So you already have a credential. How do you get this PK-3? So we'll get into that specific, kind of mentioned it at the top. Multiple subject would be the other credential that you have, but you also want this. So multiple subject teaching credential holders don't have to redo another credential program for the PK-3. The regulations or the law only created two pathways. We've discussed the preparation program aspect, everything that includes that. And then if you have a multiple subject teaching credential, you can apply directly to the commission to earn the PK-3. First, you have to hold an appropriate English learner authorization. So that could be anything from a GLAD certificate. It could be you earned your English learner through the multiple subject program, just an appropriate English learner authorization. You have to meet that subject matter competency that we discussed, one of the 9 degrees, or if you don't have one of those 9 degrees, the 24 units in ECE and child development. I know we had a couple of questions in the chat. I've been answering them about a little, more. How do we determine if they need those 24 units? Once again, the courses just need to emphasize ECE, just like child development permits. That's what we'd be looking for. And then that you don't get a recommendation for this. It's a direct paper application mailed to the commission with an application fee and the supporting documents. In this case, the supporting documents would be official transcripts showing either your degree or the 24 units. All right, let's talk about out-of-state and out-of-country routes. On my side of things, I process these applications, and I would say anywhere from 60 to 65% of the ones we've been receiving, educators are losing out on money because they think that there's a particular route for this credential. There's only 2. We discussed the preparation program route already. I just mentioned if you have a multiple subject, you can apply directly. There's no out-of-state route. And I know it gets a little confusing because you might have, if you're an educator or you're a program or anything that you see, oh, you could apply directly because you have an out-of-state license from Arizona that says it's a early childhood education license. You can go ahead and transfer this over. Unfortunately, there is no law in the regulations that state you can do that. If you have that license, you'd have to apply for a multiple subject. Same thing for out-of-country route. And if you're going that route, you have to apply for the comparable credential, which would be multiple subject, and earn your English learner authorization, then meet the subject matter, and you could apply to add the PK-3. Just really want to emphasize, seeing a lot of applications come in under these routes, and I hate seeing it because educators are losing out on money, and it's unfair to you guys out there that are applying and want this credential. So just know there's no out-of-state, no out-of-country route.
Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it. And Nick is always such a wonderful person in terms of helping people to figure this out. There's been so many times where we have meetings and he goes, here's all the possibilities, here's all your options. And then, letting people know what routes they can take and what pathways they can take. So this slide here is talking about the pathways to the PK-3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential. I want to pull your attention to the dot in the middle, the center, the circle. All pathways, require a bachelor's degree or above or higher, subject matter competency, clinical practice, and there's a performance assessment piece. If you're looking at these different pathways, though, there's a little bit, each one's slightly different. So we've got the traditional student teaching pathway. Anna, also, I see your hand up. We're going to go through the whole webinar but we're trying to do questions in chat as we go along. But if we don't get to your question, we'll absolutely give you email so that way we can connect. Okay. So I apologize. We just have pretty strong content for the whole hour. So, but we will definitely get to your question when we're able to. So thank you for your patience. On the top left corner, the blue box talks about the traditional student teaching route. That's a route that will take usually about 1 to 2 years. Some of the programs are 18 months. You're a full-time student. You may be able to work part-time during this, and you'll have 2 placements during that experience or on a traditional student teaching pathway. There's also on the top right-hand side in the orange box, the residency pathway. Now, the residency pathway is 1 to 2 years in length, 3 to 5 year follow-up. You're working out of school, you're doing your coursework at night. You might have a stipend that's available for this. You will be placed in a classroom for a full year. And with your second placement, you'll have a second placement and there'll be a minimum of 200 hours. There's also other pathways you could take as well. And so as people are looking at the options that are available that we share later on, please know that each of the different options is hosting different pathways. So you need to be able to find out what's going to be best for you. The green pathway is the integrated undergraduate pathway. That's a 4+ year pathway. You're a full-time student. You may be working part-time. And during that pathway, you would engage in 2 placements over the course of that. And then the final pathway that we're covering in this slide is the internship pathway. This internship pathway lasts 1 to 2 years. There's pre-service coursework involved, coursework at nighttime. You are a full-time employee of the district with salary and benefits. You're the teacher of record. And then there's the second placement with the 200 hours. But it's important to note with that internship, you are really running that classroom as you are simultaneously getting the training to be a teacher. Rosemary, I know you were not intended to talk on this slide, but I just want to hand it to you for just a second. If there's anything else that you'd like to share or reflect, or kind of any of those bullets you want to make sure get hit really hard on this slide, or really comprehensively on this slide. Rosemary?
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, and personally, this is a space where my brain gets all jumbled up, and it takes a while to kind of wrap your head around these different opportunities. When we're talking about all but the integrated undergraduate, you've already graduated from a bachelor's program by that point. So those are often called graduate or post baccalaureate programs. It's a graduate program. Those three do not necessarily include a degree. There are some programs out there. I know personally, when I got my teaching credential, I got it combined with a master's, but that required extra work. So these three groups, this is where you really have to get to know your institution, where you're applying. You've got to ask those questions. Now, the integrated undergraduate is one where it's going to come along with, you're going to be doing your bachelor's work alongside it. Some schools, it's a bachelor's of arts, some it's a bachelor's of science. And then they're also putting in all the pedagogy, which is the way you teach, all the content of how to teach, the developmental appropriate practices that you need to know for this credential, and also your clinical practice. So theoretically, it could be done in 4 years. And I know that's the plan in a lot of these programs, but you might want to give yourself some overlap. And that's going to be, you'll have the opportunity to work part-time, but it's likely you wouldn't have a whole lot of time. And we do have a bunch of folks on the webinar today who are parts of the county offices of education that have intern programs. And then there's also a couple of universities that are offering intern programs. And those are programs where you can earn a full salary and benefits while you're getting your credential. It's a lot of work, but it's also a really efficient way to go, and one where you can earn an income. So it's really, as you can see, there's multiple options here to fit your needs and your lifestyle. So thanks, Renee.
Thank you, Rosemary. Also, Greg from CSUN has a question in the chat that I think you'd be able to answer if you don't mind, Rosemary, if you've got a chance. He's talking about the multiple pathways that they're offering or planning to offer. So great. Let's go ahead to the next slide. This is so exciting, everybody, this piece of it. Every time a new program is approved for the PK-3 Early Childhood Education Specialist Instruction Credential, it's like a celebration, because for us, the ECE team, it means more access to people getting this credential. So as of right now, everybody, this is what it looks like, okay? As of right now, you can go ahead and look at these programs to consider the PK-3 credential. San Jose State University is offering a post-BA traditional student teaching and residency intern option. Fresno State University, which actually I'm going to be at Fresno State tomorrow. I know I see some of you on who's on right now from Fresno State. I'm going to be there for an event tomorrow. Fresno State is offering a post-baccalaureate traditional student teaching and residency. Riverside County Office of Education, they're offering an intern program. San Diego County Office of Ed, who I'm pretty sure is on right now, is offering an intern program. Vanguard University, who I know is on, I saw them talking in the chat. Vanguard University is offering a post-baccalaureate traditional student teaching and an integrated undergraduate pathway. Cal State University Dominguez Hills is also offering a post-baccalaureate traditional student teaching and intern program. And Biola University is post-baccalaureate traditional student teaching and integrated undergraduate. Please know there will be more groups added to this list over time. The initial program review process takes about 6 months to a year. And sometimes even longer, depending on where people are at in the process and how much work has happened from all the different pieces that go into this. It's important to note, as of right now, there's 19 other PK3 programs that are at some point of the process. We don't anticipate any like being announced right away or anything, but you know, over the next year, you're going to hear quite a few others that will come through the pipeline. I also know some of you that are on right now. You may have a program that you're creating that hasn't started the IPR process. Maybe you're doing your campus process right now. A lot of campuses, as they're creating the programs, have to go through multiple layers of approval on their campus sites before they can send it over to the commission to engage in the IPR process. But no matter where you are in the process, please know you have colleagues at the commission. We're here to help you along the way. I also know in the chat we were asked about where can we go to find out this information. On the next slide, I'm going to share that with you. We've got a website. Actually, let's go ahead to that site.
Really fast,
Oh,
Renee.
yes, Bronwyn.
I'm going to just plug really fast on December 9th at our community circle. We'll have some information on this, one of our slides, how you can get connected with that if you haven't already. If you are proposing or looking at doing a PK3 program or in the process of doing a PK3 program, we're really excited that Riverside County Office of Education, Vanguard University, and California State University Dominguez Hills will be on a panel on December 9th at our community circle, talking about how they went through the process of their PK3 program and their obstacles, their successes, all of those things, and what it was like working with the CTC on getting their program approved. So if you are in the process of getting a program approved, or you are thinking about getting a program approved, that would be an excellent community circle to attend so that you could really listen to real-time question and answer about 3 programs that have gone through the process from start to finish.
I love that you just mentioned that, Bron, especially too, because community circle is a very different space that we offer at the commission. It's always related to early childhood education. A lot of it is usually related to the PK3 credential. And so it's a chance to not only learn about from these 3 programs, but it's almost like a reciprocal discussion kind of place. And so it's a chance to kind of jump into conversation. So thank you, Bronwyn, for mentioning that. And I'm sure that we can go ahead and send that in the follow-up email to everybody. So that way, if you haven't had a chance to register for Community Circle, you will be able to, and everybody is welcome there. Now, this is the site that I believe that Nick might have just put this in the chat, if I remember correctly, or Rosemary just put this in the chat just a moment ago. So this is where you go if you're interested in seeing what credential programs are offered in the state of California. So as you can see by the left-hand search, you could specifically search for the PK3 Specialist Teaching Credential, ECE Specialist Credential. You could also be searching for if you want to do elementary teaching, or if you're looking for a secondary. It enables you to search all of the programs that are currently approved by the commission and available. And I hope I'm saying that right, Rosemary. If there's another way to say that, please correct me on that. But it is all the programs that are currently approved by the commission and available for people. Also on there, it'll give you a little bit more information too. So I want to also share as well, in addition to this website, we highly encourage people to sign up for the PSD News. We will share this in a later part of our presentation, and the ECE News. These are 2 different newsletters. The PSD News comes out weekly, and the ECE News that comes out monthly, sometimes a little more frequently. But like, for instance, in the ECE News, we like to share when there's new programs that are coming out. So in addition to the website, we have other spaces where we try to share when new programs have come out. So, and we will make sure that we share those contacts with you before we wrap today. So that way, hopefully you can join us on those listservs and kind of get more involved in what's happening at the commission. Okay, with that, I'm actually going to hand this slide over now to Nick. Nick Newman from our certification department. He was the original person covering this slide, but I just wanted to tap into it for a minute since it was what everybody was talking about in the chat. So Nick, I will hand it over to you. Thank you for allowing me to talk this one for a little bit.
Yeah, no problem, Nick. Yeah, I guess Renee, you kind of covered it all right there. Yeah, this is this is I put in a couple of questions in the chat, but yeah, these are all the approved programs, and I know people have asked too. Do some of them offer a bilingual program. You can filter on the left-hand side where you see it says educator preparation programs. You can filter the type of preparation as well as additional additional authorizations like bilingual that will filter what programs offer that. So yeah, this is and it's updated very regularly. I know that because I work with the IT team to get them updated on a regular basis.
Nick, also, are all the private universities with the red legend and all the CSUs with the blue legend? Is that correct? And then all county
Yeah.
offices of ed are with the orange legend?
Yeah, this is just one screenshot, but when you're on the website, you'll see and it'll tell you, the red private university, blue, CSU, and then the orange is like a local education agency that you can contact. And it does, when you hover over like the red, it will give you a link to the website for that particular credential program, so you can reach out to them directly through that way.
Thank you so much, Nick. I'm going to pass it over to Debbie to go over some of our resources that we have for institutions of higher education and candidates.
Great, thank you, Bronwyn. So we have some general resources. First of all, we have our early childhood education webpage, and that covers all the work for ECE. So it would include this credential, CDP permit, and other work that we're doing, CalFTPA. So it's really a combination of all that work. So if you really want that broad overview for what's happening with the commission in early childhood education, that's your page that you're going to go to, and links that are available on that page. The other resource that we have is the PK-3 ECE Specialist Instruction Credential webpage. And this is dedicated specifically to this credential. So you will find general information. You'll also find any kind of webinars that we've done, FAQs, just a whole host of information that'll be extremely helpful for you. We also list the institution of higher education resources on that website. So if you just want to immerse yourself in the credential, that is the webpage that you're going to go to find out all of the resources and links that will help support your work. Excuse me, for institutions of higher education, the resources, we have our ECE PK-3 credential handbook. And that handbook is very comprehensive. Contained in that handbook are the program standards as well as the TPEs in that handbook, and all of the specifics that you're going to need to know about the credential. We also have our credential clinical practice guide. So again, everything you're going to need to know about clinical practice and all of the equivalencies that are listed there specifically. So I think that's extremely helpful, as well as the credential FAQs that are there on the website, but there's a link to that directly for institutions that will be extremely beneficial. We also have candidate resources. So we have a document that's the California TK Workforce Requirement and Educator Pathways. And that is very helpful for you really understanding what are your options in relationship to the TK workforce. And then also it has scenarios within that document. But again, it's a very handy tool for whether you're an institution to pass that along to your candidates, or you're a candidate or institution as you would like more information about that. We also have our credential FAQs, which we mentioned above. So that's extremely helpful for candidates. Roadmap to Teaching is a special place on our CTC website that really will help folks know, okay, I'm really interested in teaching TK. What are my options? Where can I go? Etc. And so that is a pathway, linked pathway, that you'll be able to gain all of the information that you need for that for candidates. And also, which we put the links up here, the approved institution and programs that are currently for the PK-3 credential. And as was described before, I believe Renee described subscribing to the ECE news if you want to be on a regular listserv for ECE news that comes out once a month, then you can click the link and sign up for that. And then subscribing to the PSD news that comes out weekly. And that particularly for institutions of higher education, there's a lot of really valuable information that comes from the commission on a weekly basis. So next slide. So our contacts in relationship to our ECE team, you'll see our email there, and we've dropped it in the chat a couple of different times, but that is available if you want to reach out to us, and we will get back to you and get you to the right person or answer your question. We have our ECE Office Cafe coming up in November 19th. And we're going to be, we're so excited about that opportunity. We're going to be talking about the PK-3 credentials, so we welcome that. And it's a time for us to listen to our folks that participate in that. And last 15 minutes are general questions for the commission. And we also have our ECE Community Circle on December 9th coming up. We want to make sure that you have the information in terms of contacting the IPR team. For institutions, if you're interested in submitting a proposal, that email is there. You can reach out to them. And there are IPR office hours twice a month, the first and third Wednesdays. So those links are provided there. Please take an opportunity to be a part of that discussion, and also an opportunity to be able to get the information that you need. If you want to contact the credentials team, there are two, there's one email there that that actually is a newer email. So it's a career guidance email. So please click that if you want to reach out to the credentials team on that. And then, or if you want to connect with a career counselor for that. So those are wonderful resources for you to take advantage of. Appreciate all of you and the work that you do. And I'm going to hand it over to Bronwyn.
Thank you, Debbie. All right. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. I'm going to stop sharing because I want to see everybody's faces. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. We, again, we want to invite you that if you have a specific scenario or a specific question, please reach out to our team. At ece@ctc.ca.gov. That email goes to real people. It goes to Renee, Debbie, and I. A real people will definitely answer your email, and we will set up a time to meet with you. Generally, we like to meet with you on Zoom. Emails can get kind of back and forth. If it's a simple question, we definitely will answer it in an email. But a lot of times, if you have a specific situation, it's better if we can just kind of sit down with you and talk about that situation. If it's a program question, if you are a program, the best person would be our IPR princess, Rosemary. She is the one who will answer all those questions for you. So we say go to IPR office hours or contact her. But if it's about the credential specifically, either our team or Nick Newman are the ones that you would definitely want to get a hold of. We know that all of this information is a lot. There's going to be lots of questions forthcoming. It's a brand new thing. This is the first time in over 30 years that California has done this. So it's going to take some time for everybody's mind to get wrapped around. But we're here for you. We're here in solidarity. We understand. And we also understand the deep need that our field needed for this credential. And so we're here to make sure that those questions get answered and that the understanding is really deep, and that we get this out to all of our candidates, our County Office of Education, our institutions of higher ed, and anybody who's thinking about offering the credential or is thinking about obtaining this credential. It's very important that we have a really sustainable workforce for our little ones. So if you do have any questions, please reach out to our team. Thank you so much for attending today. We're going to send out this PowerPoint in an email to you all, and then we'll have this up on our CTC website in probably about 2 to 3 weeks. So be on the lookout for that as well. Again, if you have any questions at all, email our team, and we thank you so much for attending today. Reach out to the career guidance counselors if you have any question, or our team at all, and have a great Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you.